Winning a national championship in college basketball is very hard to do. Winning a championship in any sport is difficult, but especially in college basketball, given how crazy March Madness is with all the upsets, Cinderellas, and all the other crazy stuff that happens along the way. Not to mention the players are playing so many games in a short time span while trying to keep up with their schoolwork. No matter how you look at it, winning a national title in college basketball is far from easy, let alone winning it 2 years in a row. The UConn Huskies are back on top of the college basketball world as the 2024 college basketball national champions, and have done something that hasn't been done in 17 years. UConn is the first team to win back-to-back national championships in college basketball since Florida did it back in 2006 and 2007. We all know that over the past few years, UConn has been really good at basketball, so I'm not going to sit here and explain how good they are, we all know that. In this video, I'm here to show you how the Huskies didn't just win back-to-back national championships, but are on one of the most dominating runs in sports history. And I'm going to disclose how dominant this UConn program truly is. Right now, we all know UConn for going back-to-back, but they have been dominant before their national titles in 2023 and 2024. The Huskies have won 6 national championships in the past 26 years. These titles come from 1999, 2004, 2011, 2014, 2023, and 2024. Based on this stat pattern from the past 26 years, UConn is winning a championship about every 5 or 6 years, which is absolutely absurd. It's been 50 years since another team has won 6 national championships in the span of 26 years in college basketball, putting UConn in a league of their own. Their record over the past 2 seasons, which includes games from March Madness and the Big East tournament, is 68-11. In this year's NCAA tournament, UConn's average margin of victory was 23.3 points. They beat Stenson by 39, Northwestern by 17, San Diego State, who was the runner-up in last year's national championship, by 30, Illinois by 25, Alabama by 14, and Purdue by 15. In this year's tournament, the Huskies won their 6 games by a combined total of 140 points. In last year's NCAA tournament, their average margin of victory was 20 points. They beat Iona by 24, St. Mary's by 15, Arkansas by 23, Gonzaga by 28, Miami by 13, and San Diego State by 17. In the past 2 tournaments, UConn also finished 12-0 against the spread, which is insane. Over this 2-year stretch, their closest game in the tournament was their 2023 Final Four matchup against Miami, which they only won by 13. Yes, that's right, they only won by 13. Not a single game in this 2-year span was decided by single digits. This brings me to my main point that UConn isn't just winning championships. They are dominating college basketball in a fashion that has arguably never been seen in sports before. To win every single game from the first round all the way to the national championship by at least 20 points in the NCAA tournament is wild. Not to mention that they did it 2 years in a row.
Obviously, what could you say? We won. By a lot again.
March Madness creates one of the hardest paths for teams to win a national championship, as they have to navigate through upsets early in the first rounds and face great opponents when they get into the later rounds. I have never seen a team win every single game by double digits and not be on the verge of losing at least once for 2 years straight, like UConn has. There have obviously been really good dominant teams in the past in this tournament, but they usually encounter a close game at least once. For example, if we go back to 2022 when Kansas won it all, they at least had a couple of close games. They beat North Carolina in the national championship by only 3 points, and also had close games with Creighton and Providence in the second round and Sweet 16. I'm bringing this to your attention to emphasize how difficult it truly is to win every single game in this tournament by an average of 20 points, as most champions typically do not do this and have at least one close game or upset scare, but UConn is just different and doesn't keep it close with anybody. You could even look at other teams from different sports that have been dominant, and even some of their championship games have been close. Let's take a franchise like the Patriots or the Bulls, for example. Both of these franchises were extremely dominant dynasties, and even they had close championship games in Super Bowls and NBA Finals, whereas UConn has not had a close game this tournament the past 2 years, whether it's the national championship, the Final Four, or the first round. To my point, there have been plenty of dominant sports teams in the past in college basketball and in other sports, but UConn's dominance is distinct. They are on a generational run as no team during the tournament has been able to beat them, let alone simply compete with them and keep it a close game for the past 2 years. During the past 2 NCAA tournaments, when you would turn on your TV to watch UConn, it was never a close matchup, and it was honestly boring because you knew that UConn was going to win in blowout fashion. Like I've already mentioned, these games with UConn in the tournament are blowouts, but it's not like they're playing nobody opponents either. They're playing some of the best competition and they're still beating them by an average of 20 points. Let's take this year for example. They had to face the Big Ten champions Illinois, a very good offensive team Alabama in the Final Four, and one of the best teams in the country, Purdue, in the national championship with Naismith Player of the Year Zach Edey, and they handled all of those teams no problem whatsoever. One game that really highlights UConn's dominance is their Elite 8 matchup against Illinois this year. If you just looked at the final score, it would be deceiving because UConn won 77-52, which is no surprise according to their margin of victory in the tournament. But in the first half, it was actually a super competitive game, and it looked like UConn was actually going to get a game from somebody. However, this would quickly change after halftime. In the closing minutes of the first half, the game was tied 23-23, and at halftime, UConn held a 5-point lead 28-23 and was in an unfamiliar close game. It was all downhill from here though for the Illini as UConn proceeded to go on a 30-0 run and won the game 77-52. All Big Ten guard Terrence Shannon Jr. was held to a season-low 8 points as Illinois' season was terminated by the defending champs. This wasn't just another blowout win for the Huskies, it was a massacre in the second half. Like I said, they went on a 30-0 run and outscored Illinois 49-29 in the second half to advance to their second straight Final Four. They weren't just playing some 16 seed in the first round either. These were the Big Ten champions, Illinois, with one of the best offensive players in the country, and as a team was having one of the best seasons in program history. UConn literally suffocated the life out of this team in the second half and put an end to their magical season. Another interesting feat is that this UConn team is not the same team that won the championship last year. They lost some crucial offensive production to the NBA and sophomore guard Jordan Hawkins, who shot lights out from behind the arc and was a big part of their championship run last year. This loss wasn't a problem for the Huskies this year as they got outstanding play from players like graduate guard Tristan Newton, freshman guard Stephon Castle, and standout sophomore center Donovan Klinger. This is just another factor that illustrates how deep and dominant this UConn squad is. And in this video, I know I've only talked about their men's program, but UConn's women's program has been just as dominant. UConn's women's basketball has won 10 national championships since 2000, which is even more than their men's program. So honestly, you could say that since 2000, the University of Connecticut has been running college basketball, which you could say is kind of impressive. I could continue to go on and list more games and stats that just continues to prove how dominant and generational this UConn team has been in the past 2 years. But I think I've proven the point here, that this UConn performance we've seen in these past couple of seasons isn't just a college basketball team winning back-to-back national championships, but rather one of the most dominating performances we have ever witnessed in sports history that will be remembered forever. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you watched this far, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to hit that subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated. I got some of the best sports content on YouTube over here on this channel. You're not going to want to miss out on any of it. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you all have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video.